entity button, a nice long name for a button, and that form is getting 4 pieces of information that help to add the vendor. They are basically grabbing the required fields for that vendor, and when you hit OK, it's able to do its job. And then I'll run through the other things. All right, so building master details forms. So before I walk through building a master details form, I'll just walk through some important components and experiences that you can find on the master details forms. So first, I'm going to collapse that so that it doesn't pop up at me. So I'm looking here at my master details form. This is my customer details form. You can see the action pane up the top, the fact boxes on the right. Importantly, I've already talked about the performance of the expansion state of the fact boxes. If they're not expanded, they're not run, so we protect ourselves in that way. The personalization state of these fact boxes is remembered. So if I expand recent activity and contacts and primary address and close this form, next time I come back to the form, that expansion state is remembered for me. You can see those here. So that power user can personalize the view of this form the way that he wants. I can also reorder these, so that if that recent activity calendar is the most important thing on here, then by golly, I can put it at the top, and when I close the form and reopen it, it stays at the top. So that's remembered per form. That personalization setting is remembered per form, so that I can personalize the details form separately from the list page, even though they share many fact boxes. Fast tabs are another feature of the details forms that is super important. There's 3 benefits of fast tabs. 1, you can view multiple tab pages at one time. 2, the summary fields down here allow you to see at a glance information about the record that you're on. And then 3, the wider area that we have here allows for more descriptive tab page names, so that hopefully you can break down those large tab pages that used to take up a whole screen. You can break them down into small slivers that the user can choose whether they want to expand or collapse, so they can personalize the view to their needs. Again, here's an example of multiple tabs open at the same time, so the user can personalize that view, so that when they close it, come back into it, the view is remembered as they last had it. And then the summary fields are really quite useful. I can get an enhanced preview off of those summary fields by just hovering over the summary field, and then I can click through on those as well. So those are links in the view mode. You had a question?
As you're clicking through those fast tabs,
yep,
and you're changing values potentially, are those values saved when you click to the next fast tab, or at what point is the record saved in the database?
So the question is around what stage is the record saved as I'm clicking through the fast tabs. So if I was in edit mode, I can use Control-Shift-E to switch to edit mode, or I can press on the edit button. When I'm making changes, so the AX save model is by data source. So the piece of data that you're editing, so if you're editing a customer and then you switch to an address, for example, in this fast tab down here, if I change the customer and then switch to the address, it'll save the customer.
So in a particular fast page, can you only have one individual data source and not an intermingling of multiple?
The question is about whether you can intermingle data sources in a fast tab, and you can mix them up however you want.
So it would save both of those if you were to switch off to one that had different ones?
Yeah, if you were to switch off, so say for example, I've got this contact information fast tab here. If I made a change to customer and then switched to address, it would save customer. If I made a change to an address and then switched to contact information, it would save the address.
But
so
if you had multiple fast tabs that were just customer data specific, it wouldn't save it till you switched to one that wasn't?
The question was, if I had multiple fast tabs that had customer data, if I'm moving around those fields, does it save? No, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah, so it treats all of the fields inside of the fast tab like they're on the form. Yeah, it's just a grouping mechanism. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, so I just wanted to show you the benefits of being able to personalize your view here. So for example, if the power user wants to see the sales order defaults, this premium, if they were interested in the order entry deadline without having to have this whole fast tab expanded, I can right click on this field and go to personalize. And then I can set the fast tab summary to yes. And close that. And the next time I come back into the form, I can see that summary field shown here. Does someone have a question?
Do the collapsed fast tabs get executed at one load?
Do the collapsed fast tabs get executed? Yes. The collapsed, so if you have content inside of a fast tab, it's still rendered unlike the fact boxes. We did that with the fact boxes because the fact boxes are a form in and of themselves, where the content inside of the fast tab is just a piece of the form. Now we did some smart things around lazy loading the information inside of tab pages, and in some cases it might be lazy loaded, but you'll need to experiment with exactly when it's showing up. We opted to load it rather than lazy load it if we were at all unsure of whether certain code was going to run. But you might want to experiment with that. So I've already shown you the view edit mode. Jumping into the view edit mode with a keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-E, or pressing the edit button inside of the details form. You can also hit an edit button inside of the list page. Whatever works for me as a user. I showed you the enhanced previews that show me information about my data without having to navigate to those forms. Although in view mode, I've got links that I can click on that data and go to that form and go and see that or edit that and add records to it. And that's just equivalent to when I right-click and say View Details. That's the old go to main table functionality for those of you from AX 2009 days. On these details forms, we still have the idea of being able to edit multiple records in quick succession. So we have a grid view that you can go to. So you can go ahead and edit those records quickly as needed. And we have a lot of keyboard shortcuts that allow you to move around these fast tabs. So if you right-click on a fast tab, you've got expand all, collapse all, collapse one, expand one. So I can really move quickly around these by hitting Control-Shift and then plus. I can get all of them expanded, and I can use page up and page down to move around. And I can use the mouse wheel. I can move however I want amongst all of these fields. And then if I want to move tab by tab, I can press Control and Tab, and that just jumps me tab by tab. So there's a lot of flexibility there. There's a lot of thought that went into enabling power users to use the keyboard as quickly as they want. All right, so now we'll jump into building a master details form. I'll show you what that experience is like. All right, so I'm going to build a details form quickly that showcases users. So I'm going to showcase users and the assigned security roles for those users. So I'm going to use my new form from template pullout, which is now available in the AOT. And you can see all of the templates that I have access to here. And specifically here, I'm going to use the master details form template, details form master. I can click on that. I can rename it. So I'll just call it user master. The first thing I can do here is I can, because we have those patterns, we can run what we call the form style checker to check form style best practices against this form. So it's going to use the pattern and some additional rules to tell me to analyze the form and tell me what additionally needs to be done to this form. So in this case, it's going to tell me some fairly basic things of my data source, title data source, and caption aren't set. So I'm going to go and set those during the course of what I'm going to do here. And we'll run the form style best practices at the end to make sure that everything's good. So first I'm going to set the identity. I'm going to set the caption for the form. There it is. Alright, we're going to set the caption to 8616181. So that is the form caption, and then I'm going to set this, the first action pane tab caption as denoted in the user experience guidelines to the same as the form. I'm just going to show you that. So this is the basic template that you get when you're building a master details form. So we've got an action pane in there, we've got the basic structure there. We've got the grid view and the details view, although there's no fields in here, so you can't really see a difference. But we've got the basic structure of a master details form. You can see those user captions that I've set there, so I've got my identity. Now I'm going to set my data sources up. So I pull this all the way down. Alright, we're going to add two data sources. We're going to add user info. And we're just going to insert it end and insert it empty so it doesn't behave badly on us. We're going to also add a security user role. If I spelled it correctly, paste it in there. Great, I did. And we're going to join that one to user info. Great. So we've got those two data sources in and joined. Now we're going to set up the use of those data sources. So on the form design, we're going to set the title data source, and we are going to set, which denotes the data source that's used to populate the title bar, and then we're going to set the data source as well. And that is the data source that's used to, as you're moving through the records, and used for the VCR buttons. And then I'm going to set the grid, so that I don't forget later. So in the grid view, we actually have a grid, and on the grid, I need to set the data source here as well. Great, so I've got my data sources set up. So now I am going to not click that. Great. I've got my data sources set up. Now I want to get some fields in there, so I'm going to right-click, open a new window so that I can see that. Data sources fields, and I'm going to grab some fields from here, and I want to grab ID name enable. And the network domain and network alias. And actually I'll grab language and help language because I know that those are required fields. So I'm going to drag those over to my grid view. And I'm also going to drag those over to my and enable. I'm also going to drag those over to the general fast tab. So I have some base fields in there as well. And I can order those as needed. So I'm going to move help language down a little bit. Yeah, now I've got my basic fields set up. Yes, and I'm going to set my title as well. So I can go into my header title, and I'm going to set the data source appropriately and point to the data method of title fields. Alright, so that is your basic master details form. I've dragged some fields from my data source into the general fast tab. I've got some basic fields in there. I can go and populate other fast tabs as needed. I've got fields over on my grid view, which allow me to see those records, and I can act from both views, and I can build out the action pane as needed and add fact boxes as needed. So that's the basic starting point for a master details form.